You ever just finish a long workout? You make it back, you're so excited. You're on your front doorstep or at the back door, you're trying to catch your breath. You're stopping your watch, you're like, job done. Make sure you stop it, right? You got to stop that watch, stop that Garmin. And then you go inside the house and you're like, okay, I need to like wipe my face off, or I need to get something to eat or drink. All of a sudden, watch vibrates, watch beeps at you. You take a look at it and it's like unproductive or missed goal or brand new 5K PR, even though you just went for like a hike outside with your friends. What is going on with technology for endurance athletes? Why is it controlling you? Why do you need to leave it behind? In today's episode, I'm going to talk a little bit about tech overload, how technology is actually not at a competitive advantage for the vast majority of us. It's actually a problem that we ourselves are funding on a daily basis with our subscription dollars. And it's something that perhaps we need to take a good hard look at. My name is Patrick McCran. I'm the coach here inside Endurance Nation. And since 2007, I've worked with tens of thousands of athletes, helping them complete Ironman races, marathons, gravel races, mountain bike races, you name it. I've done it. They've done it. They have the paraphernalia to approve it. And also just the stories and the scars to prove it. I also have all sorts of devices as well. I've got rings, I've got watches, straps, I've got all sorts of, pods, power meters. I had a gentleman over today who wanted to take a look at my Vasa machine, which he said was next to my treadmill, which is also next to my indoor trainer in front of the flat screen TV. I am just about as optimized as anyone could possibly be as an endurance athlete. And at the same time, I recognize that having all this technology around me is actually a real problem. So when I talk to you today about this topic, what I'm really talking about is a new thing we're trying here inside Endurance Nation called Product 28, where we're going to, in June, kind of step back a little bit from the technology, run a project, run it, and just see how many of you out there actually want to do some training without going crazy with training logs and data and charts and whiz-bangery, and say, you know what? I don't know. Before 2010, there were hundreds of years of athletes doing incredible things that didn't have data coming streaming at them. Was that okay? How are they so fast? How do they break those records? How do they set the bar, right? Well, it's really interesting because actually it turns out that data itself is great for viewing an activity. If you're a NASCAR fan, or if you like watching Major League Sports, especially maybe watching sports on the weekend when there's like a dashboard and a ticker, all that information is really helpful for someone who's watching. But for someone who's actually doing, someone who's competing like you and I, well, all that data actually isn't necessarily that helpful. It's actually just a lot of data, right? So something to think about when you say, say you look at your favorite NASCAR broadcast, all the get up here, or F1, and see all of the information that's there. If you go ask someone who's an aficionado of the sport, they'll tell you there's actually really only one or two numbers that really matter. Like, it's great to see all of the numbers and all things, but only one or two details matter. And some details matter more in other times than the others, right? So like, the engine temperature doesn't really matter at the beginning of the race, it matters at the end, right? RPMs doesn't matter so much on a cool day as it does on a hot day. Rotation of tires doesn't matter so much on a clean track as it does a rough track. And so there's different scenarios where different information is more important. And the nuance to know the differences between all those is actually up to the pit chief or the athlete in the cockpit, driver. And similarly, the same is true for us as endurance athletes, that depending on the situation, depending on what we're training for, depending on the day, depending on how we feel, all of the numbers mean very different things, right? There's a time of the year when I think 70 degrees is too hot. There's a time when I think it's too cold. And there's a time when I think it's just right. I'm still doing my workouts on those days, but the difference is in terms of how I approach them, how I pace them, how I recover from them, how I manage my time during that workout. All of that is based on me and my decision making. But yet we let devices make decisions for us all the time. So in today's episode, I'm going to break that down for you a little bit and talk a little bit about what I like to call the social media transition. So back in the day, training was actually really functional. Like, if you go back, the Wayback Machine on the internet, and take a look at some of the older websites, go back to Training Peaks, right? Really one of the original training plan platforms out there. And you take a look at what things looked like back in the day. They were calendars. There were some color-coded things on calendars, really straightforward. Did you do a run? Yes or no? Manual entry. Eventually, Garmin was playing in the game, and you could sync a device. It was awful for those of you who remember before Bluetooth, syncing with a cable, and the cable didn't work, and the port wasn't happy with the cable to your computer, and the connection was bad, and you have to wait and reboot and hard reboot and soft reset, all those nightmarish things, all just to get the workout up to the screen. Interestingly enough, athletes today are just as pressed as we were back then to get the data up, even though the process has significantly changed now. But those are very rudimentary days. It was about capturing data and about adding it up, right? How many miles did you cover? How much time did you train, right? This is long before we started to get some metrics. Well, over time, as these products have evolved, both to be competitive, but also with significant investments of dollars, is that gamification has taken over. Now there's leaderboards, there's likes, and now you're being shown certain workouts instead of other workouts. And your training app, if you're on Strava, say, as an example, is a lot more like a social media app than it is a training tool. Yes, there is training tool information inside that app, but it is wrapped in this social media environment of what it means to share your workouts, share your data, be proud of what you did, and why you would never take a picture of yourself out in front of your, I don't know, favorite tree on the coastline and talk about how it was your favorite tree and today was a beautiful day with your friends. You'd gladly do it for a run, right? So the companies out there figured out that they can get almost anybody to share information, whether it's about their bodies, about their location. They can share content. Basically, even your workout data is just UGC, user-generated content, which other apps use to monetize. The more people that are on Strava, the more Strava users there are. The more Strava users there are, the more Strava makes. In order for Strava to make more money, they need more people to be on the app. And in order for Strava to work really well for me, I need more of my friends on the app so that I have more people there, or I need to make new friends on the app. You get the idea. It's just a big old cycle, big old washing machine going around, okay? So what's really interesting about this is that your dashboard looks less like training and starts to look more like Instagram, like infinite scrolling, pull down to refresh, all of those pieces. You get more notification alerts, and they're more like social media notifications than they are about fitness, about health, about sleep, about metrics, right? And interesting enough, when you think about it, when was the last time you felt anxious about missing a workout relative to the last time you felt anxious about not being able to post a workout? There's a big difference there, not doing it or just not being able to post it. And the difference is you can tell a lot about someone, they say, when the internet's out, right? I think you can learn a lot about an athlete too if their workout just won't upload. Like they did it, they rode 5 hours. Like you can see it. It's like 94 miles. Amazing. But if they can't tell anyone about it, if that tree fell in a forest, if that bike ride happened somewhere in the middle of nowhere, say a random island that was made up in the South Pacific, and nobody sees it, did it really happen? Well, these days, people would say no, because they built a culture around what it means to share our workouts, be proud, even of our virtual miles, not even our real miles as we go forward. So if it's helpful for you, it's something to think about this sort of as the same danger we would talk to our teenagers or to people who are addicted to social media, often sort of parlays into our experience as endurance athletes. Because now that our training apps are really like social media apps in large cases, we're addicted to doing the training, want to see the bar go up, see the graph go up, see the kudos come in, then am I really doing the right thing for my training? Am I really doing the right thing for my body and for my race? Or am I just doing lots of things that give me rewards that benefit somebody else or something else? And really, many of us are caught in that trap. So a useful case study here or story is actually think about Strava and to go back. And again, this can be your own homework here. I'm not going to do it live. If you go back and take a look at Strava itself, just as a lone standing training app, I went back and did a little bit of research here. So you ready for this? Let's do it. 2015, it was basics and some slight community building because community was always at the core of what Strava was doing. Okay. So they did metrics. They did pace, distance, elevation, time, as you kind of see those pieces right there. Kudos and comments were present, but it wasn't algorithm driven. You would just see them, right? Very simple, like a smaller user base. And not nuanced enough to sort of be driving attention, right? In 2015, there were API updates that added support for different types of activities. Like you could commute now and put that in there. You could do swim, before it was bike and run, really just bike. But the data wasn't personalized. It's pretty straightforward again, and sort of simple fields as you went forward, right? And the clubs and like the leaderboards and things were there, but it was really sort of very streamlined, very uncluttered. It was a very simple, easy to use website. Almost, it felt spacious back in 2015 on Strava, if you remember those days. Okay, let's fast forward 5 years, 2020, just for the pandemic. We had more data, more social, more gamification. So by 2020, Strava had expanded data set. They had detailed segment stats, they had personal records, estimated moving time made it to the dashboard, and even more advanced privacy controls. Hide where you're at so people can't find you, because so many people are here on Strava, don't want people finding you. So we're going to hide where you're at, right? The feed became more dynamic, right? Now we have more social engagement. Now you can share your photos, and photos became more of a central part of your Strava experience, much more so than the actual map where you're training or your workout data itself, right? Which really encouraged users to share what they were doing and made other users explore. I may want to look at your graph, but if you're posting pictures, I'll go look at your pictures, which is going to lead me to then look at your data. So pictures, sort of became part of that social media-esque transformation of Strava, right? Route creation and sharing became easier. Like that started to roll out over time. Integrations with devices went beyond Garmin. They went to Wahoo, to some other tech providers as well, and even cross-platform. Now, all of a sudden, you didn't just have to go through Garmin. You could do direct uploads, or connections through other devices and other ecosystems like Apple. So it's very important. And then finally, the platform started to get users start looking at premium features, more pay to play, more pay to get like training log information. So really sort of drawing a line and saying this actually really isn't a training tool. It's like social media app. But if you want the training stuff, you can pay money per month for exactly what that is. And they give you deeper analytics. In some cases, it eventually gave you a training plan, right? Now today, Strava today, as we know it, is so different from where it began. Now Strava has AI involved. There's machine learning in there, and there's super social media parallels. All right, let's dive into what some of that looks like. I've got it written down here. So now you've got athlete intelligence telling you a description of your workout, even though you just did the workout. They're not asking you to tell Strava what the workout was like. They know that you won't do it. So they just got the data telling you what the story is of your workout based on what you did, the temperature, the pace, the distance, all of that stuff. It's no longer you and you telling a story. It's Strava telling a story about you for you, right? Sort of like not me reading you a bedtime story. It's me telling you a bedtime story about your day for you based off what I understand, which is not your day. It's not your real experience. It's not what really happened. And I'm taking your power away by just telling you the story. That, my friends, encapsulates what's happening with our training apps right front and center. Okay. Route creation is now infinitely easier. You can drag and drop, move things around. It's easier to find other routes and adopt them for your own. Now, full on integration with all of your apps and your ecosystem, super helpful. It can get laggy on the weekends still when everyone is on Strava trying to upload their workouts. But now, as we get more into it, you've got like verified segments. You've got segments being cleaned up and removed for like violations, people who are perhaps maybe leaving a bike on a car to get a segment. Oh, those people, right? Now we have family plans. We've got dark mode, all the things you needed. Who knew? I needed dark mode to have a better year this year. I've got dark mode. Look out, people. Dark mode Coach Patrick is here. Definitely much faster than just light mode default Coach Patrick for sure. Now we've got more algorithm on the feed and the leaderboards. We're showing percentages of rankings, not just straight flatline rankings. We got personalized recommendations of who's on your feed. You can follow easily, get notified of friends who sign up, etc. There were even some restrictions by Strava. Now they're getting a little defensive, locking down the API, not wanting other people to come in and take the data that they've pulled together. Because remember, my friends, it's not just your workout data that's here on Strava. It's basically your athletic life that lives here, right? And it becomes more and more like social media. And now you're kind of getting a sense of what things are looking like inside of an app. And that's just Strava. And you could argue that Strava is kind of the cutting edge, but really overall, these apps and tools have evolved from what were sort of fundamental, simple trackers, calculators, things that would quantify what you did, to now things that are places where you tell a story and where stories are told to you and you're a part of, even though you're never alongside many of your athletic friends across the world. Now, can we not just follow our favorite athletes on the race day when they train? We can actually follow them in training by following them in Strava, getting updates and being able to comment on their workouts. And depending on who you are, the type of workout you did and what that workout turned out to be like, or what happened to you when you were working out, you get hundreds, sometimes even thousands of comments on your workouts that may be helpful or just completely inane as well. So that's a lot of information about training plans and evolution. Why should you care, right? Why should you really know? Well, you should know that like basically the companies that are managing and presenting you with your data have another goal in mind. It's not to be the best possible training tool for you. It's actually to figure out a way to get thousands of other people to plug into you, to plug into your training, to plug into your story, co-create a story, perhaps at an event, and ultimately monetize it. As an example, Zwift just rolled out new ways to upgrade your bike frame. So for the longest time, the Tron bike was the go-to bike in the game, and then other brands came in and they monetized those brands by, bringing their frames into the game, for example, their wheel sets or whatever. Now you can have a brand of a bike, and that bike can evolve over time. And guess when they rolled it out? They rolled it out just as we went into summer. Just, my friends, think for a second, when do most Zwift users leave Zwift or turn off their subscriptions? It's when they go into the summer. What a great time to roll out something that requires you ride tens of thousands of kilometers to upgrade your tiny little kid bike into a really big, fat, fast, mean racing bike. It's a great way to keep you engaged in the game and paying a subscription, all for a different bunch of pixels to get you training. And now, if the tools are getting you to train more than you might have otherwise trained, well, who's really to argue about that? As coach, I'm happy to see that the miles are coming in. But if you're just doing the training to earn artificial rewards, then we have another thing coming, because at the end of the day, your success really depends not just on your ability to build fitness, but your ability to make critical decisions. So it's time for us to talk a little bit about the real world impact. And with that, I have a sip of my real world peppermint tea. So there are three things I think about when I talk about this social media transformation and how it's disadvantaging us as endurance athletes. Number one, information paralysis. So you want to go for a workout, but the sleep tracker is telling you didn't sleep well last night. And your HRV in the morning seemed okay, but it's hard to tell from the graph on your phone. But outside, the weather looks good, I think, but it's possible that maybe there's high humidity there. And I'm getting some allergy data that's telling me that maybe I need to slow down this morning and take a rest, right? I know also that as I'm out there trying to get ready for my workout, my watch is telling me that I'm not quite warmed up yet, and I need to take more time before I get into my main set. And in fact, my app that I'm following actually just automatically through AI modified my workout for me, seeing what my heart rate was doing and my HRV. And the Bluetooth connected scale, which actually I didn't step on this morning, my kid did, and the data got thrown off, has adjusted my workout to make it different for me too. The result is by the time I come back, it's like using 17 different map apps and like 6 people in the back of your car, some of them drunk, to tell you how to get to your final destination. And boy, you get there, but you're not quite sure how it happened. You have no idea what was going on. There's no way you could possibly recreate it. And there's no way you could possibly even explain what happened. Well, don't worry about it, my friends, because Strava's got an AI feature that will make sense of it all for you, no matter what the hell you did with yourself, right? So really what happens is athletes are being bombarded with data points. And a lot of it is just data for data's sake, right? I could sell you an app that would tell you how hot your keyboard is. And you may want to know that because hot fingers on keyboards type at a slower rate. Also, it could be damaging your cuticles on your fingernails. And if you really care about your body, you'll want to have a tracker that's going to tell you just how hot your keyboard is, so you know when to step away from your keyboard, or perhaps buy my patented keyboard cooling device or keyboard barrier that will prevent the heat from seeping through to your fingertips and allow you to remain typing at a constant speed, content and long term. See what I did there? I created a problem you didn't know you had and monetized a way for you to solve it with something you didn't even need in the first place. That is a lot of the apps that we have out there today for athletes who are training, which is just not what we want. What happens is all of a sudden we can't make sense of the noise because there's just so much noise. The zone is flooded and there's no way for us to actually determine which of these 17 metrics I'm looking at now really, really matters. And that's really hard. Okay. So when you have information paralysis, what's the next? What's worse than that? What could be worse than being paralyzed with information? I got one for you. How about outsourced decision making, right? So a large part of racing and training is actually deciding, am I going to do my session today? How hard am I going to go here? How long can I hold this pace? What should I eat now? Is this the right piece of gear that I'm wearing? How should I adjust my pace, right? Should I change my form? Is this the output that I want? Does this effort match my RPE? All of those nuanced elements that high-performing athletes have, even everyday athletes have, based on knowing their body and knowing the countless hours of work they put in before they give them context for where they are today. When you outsource that to an app that automatically changes your workout for you based on your sleep score, all of a sudden you're not making decisions about your training at all. The workout's being decided for you. I mean, that may sound great. Like, oh, thank goodness you thought of everything and take it. But when that type of technology shows up anywhere else in your life, you don't like it. What are you in a robot taxi? Robot taxi says go left. And you're like, no, the restaurant's right there. Please go straight. You get mad at the robot taxi. But you're fine if your workout app does it, right? You're not happy if, all of a sudden someone cancels your flight. There's like a storm coming and it just cancels your flight. And you're like, oh, that's terrible. Why is it canceling my flight? But when your workout gets canceled because your HRV was different inside the bed, maybe it was measuring your white side of the mattress instead of your side of the mattress, or maybe just the sensor was off. All of a sudden you're like, that's cool. Like, I listen to my body. But you wouldn't listen to it in other contexts, but you'll do it when it comes to your workouts. And your inability to actually sit back and remain in control actually is a real problem, because if you can't make good day-to-day decisions, you're not going to be able to make good race decisions, which is actually a real consequence for endurance athletes. And then similarly, the last and most important part of this is not just the decision making, but ultimately losing touch with how your body is performing under load. When I say load, I'm not just talking about a given workout, and I'm not talking about whatever you're thinking about right now. I'm talking about what it means to have fatigue in your body over time. As we do peak training, as we recover, when are good days to take off and good days to continue pushing? Well, an algorithm can tell you what type of workout to do based on what you did today, but that algorithm is not capturing what happened at work. It's not capturing the stress you have at home. Remember, it didn't capture how hot your keyboard was and how that's obviously negatively affected your mood, which is going to affect your sleep score, right? Which is going to keep you up at night scrolling Instagram, which is going to up your screen time, which is going to expose you to more blue light, right? All of a sudden, you're in a place you don't know how you got there, and you're ultimately have no idea what's going on with your body. You are literally unlearning how to pace yourself, how to take care of yourself, and how to make smart decisions as you go forward. So this is one of the reasons why you'll see when we talk about older athletes, masters athletes being like cagey and smart, wily, wise, like getting things done. Maybe not as strong as the young bucks out there, but just knowing more. A lot of that is just nuanced knowledge of yourself that you've developed over time through intense trial and error, repeated intense trial and error. But when we start outsourcing all of that to technology, we lose those skills. We are just forgetting how to do it. We just don't know how to do it anymore. We've just lost the capacity to do it. And that's a really critical skill that we cannot afford to lose as endurance athletes, because decision making is the heart of what we do all the time. When you're running, when you're turning, when you're planning a session, when you're stacking sessions, when you're planning recovery from sessions, every day as an endurance athlete, especially one who has goals or ambitions like doing a marathon, you're making countless decisions about how you're fueling your body, how you're recovering from the workouts, how you're pacing yourself, how you're managing your workouts over time, how you're finding the milestones and supporting yourself, how you're processing bad workouts versus good workouts. All of that's going on in your brain, and all of that is part of that calibration process to make you a better athlete. Take that away, and all of a sudden, we've got sort of incapacitated athletes who are unable of making a decision, and effectively are paralyzed by all the data they have. They look like astronauts without the spacesuit in outer space, but there's no NASA Central Control Center to tell them how to use it all, and they don't know how to use it themselves either. When one battery goes out, the whole system comes crashing down. Even now, just with your bike, with my bike, I've got a power meter that has a battery. I've got shifters front and rear that have a battery. I've got a bike computer that needs to be charged. I've got lights on the front and back that need to be there. I've got a radar in the back that needs to be connected to my bike computer to tell me there. I'm listening to music in one ear because I got to have something going on inside my head. I got my messages on my bike computer while I'm rolling. I'm probably more tech enabled than the military was 20 years ago. And I'm just riding a bike around my state, right? That's just crazy and wild. So this actually has a negative impact on athletes as well. And I want to tell you just some anecdotal stuff about what it means to work with athletes who live in this environment, particularly newer athletes who are really confused. They will not be able to get workouts done because they simply can't connect their devices. Instead of just going for a run, they'll wait 25 minutes for the satellites to be found. You can run without satellites, but sometimes people just forget, especially the newer athletes who just don't know, right? Athletes who are unable to know where that fine line is. Part of becoming a successful athlete is challenging yourself to a place where you think you can't go any further, and then you find a way to break through. Well, if your workout is always changing, if the numbers are always being moved, the goalposts are always hopping about, it's hard to tell what progress is. Progress is just doing more and logging into the app, I guess. So your subscription will tell you that you're actually making progress, which ironically, it probably would anyway, just because you're paying it, right? Where do the incentives lie with that piece, right? But I want to tell you a quick story about me back in Ironman Coeur d'Alene. I don't even know if I have that up here somewhere. I probably have an Ironman Coeur d'Alene medal laying on the floor over there somewhere. Back in 2009, I want to say, young kids, getting ready for the race, last race simulation, actually got in a car accident, tweaked my back. Kids were okay. But I was sleeping on the floor, and I had to go out to this race, having not really worked out for about 4 weeks. And I was super worried about the race, but I was feeling good. I want to have a great race. Super excited. Probably the most rested I've been for an Ironman in a couple of years. So I'm ready to go. I get out there. Decent swim for me, 105, always 105, 106. Good bike, felt pretty good, came off in a good place, and I started running. And right away, I knew I had a problem because my watch is telling me that I'm running like 6-minute miles. I remember my watch beeping at me as I came out of transition. And I said to the kid next to me, I was like, wow, this is crazy. My watch must have been connected to these satellites because it just said that we went 625. And he's like, we just went 625. Isn't that awesome? And I was like, no, that's the worst thing I've ever heard in my entire life. And so we turned around and went back to where the aid station was, coming back through transition. And I walked the entire length of that aid station. That kid took off. I never saw him again, but I'm pretty sure I passed him later. But I had to slow down. And the rest of that run was really just different versions of me trying to slow myself down. And there were times when I could, when I was focused on it, and times when I just couldn't. There are people out there. You're in the out and back sections. There's lots of fans, lots of energy. But eventually it caught up to me. And about mile 17, 18, heading out of town again, just past the little townhouses and so on, heading out to the lake, I was in a bad spot. I wasn't really eating. I think I stopped sweating and I was feeling a little dizzy, just not great. And I was like, oh man, I've only done a couple of these Ironman races and I'm not sure what's going on, but I know this right now is not good. I'm in trouble. I got to figure something out. But I didn't know what to do. I knew I needed to do something, but I couldn't stop racing. Everyone's around me and moving. So I saw an aid station. I saw a porta-john. So I went into the porta-john. I made a plan. I went to the porta-john and closed the door. And I was like, I'm going to stand here and try and pee. Well, dehydrated Coach Patrick in a porta-john on a hot day in Ironman Coeur d'Alene, it's going to take me a few minutes. Now, I don't recommend standing in a porta-john in the sun, Ironman Coeur d'Alene on the side of the lake at the end of the day in the heat, but it was the thing that I needed the most. And that decision to slow down then is actually what led me to get a final roll down slot for my age group because I couldn't see people running by me, so I wasn't tuned into that anymore. I let them go. My heart rate came down. Finally came out of there. I got some food and some drink, and I started jogging. As I started jogging, I saw some of the people that I've been running with coming back the other way. And boy, you thought I didn't look good. They looked terrible. Like they made me feel bad just looking at them. And I was like, these are the people I was racing and they're miserable because they were ignoring all of the signs that their body was going through. They were pushing through irrespective of what was happening because they were just following numbers. So I went out, turned around, came back, and lo and behold, over those last 5 miles, 6 miles, I passed a bunch of those people. Some of them were people that I flew in on who told me they were going to win the age group and all these, brave people back in the day. Ironman was pretty wild west, I got to say. And it ended up being that I got like the 9th spot or something and I got a Kona roll down. I remember my business partner was like, you're going to take that like it's a roll down. Man, I was so proud of that roll down because it was the hardest race I'd done to date. I had to literally stop myself from destroying myself to have a good race. And it was one of the first times that I realized that actually how I choose to pace myself on the day is not only directly connected to my outcome, which obviously the faster you go, slower you go, right? You pace yourself to the finish line. But also what I don't do is just as important as what I actually do. That was a real breakthrough for me as an athlete and as a coach to understand that there are times when actually turning things off will allow you to be successful. Doing the complete opposite of what you think is normal is actually the best thing you can do for your body. That's not something that any app is going to tell you. There is no jump in a porta-john app that you can download, although maybe someone will make one now, and you can just pop in a porta-john, whatever, and become recharged to come back out and win your race, right? No, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is that as you learn about your body, which is something that we are intensely connected to as endurance athletes, your ability to cultivate moments like the ones I just described are part of not only what shapes you as an athlete, but actually make you better at being an endurance athlete because we learn from those moments and we make less and less mistakes over time. Whereas Strava's AI, as far as I can tell, isn't learning anytime fast. And they have zero desire. My guess is they're not spending my subscription dollars on improving that AI. And so as a result, if you outsource your decision-making to just apps and technology, you'll have more data, you'll have more charts, you'll have more likes, you'll have more friends, but you won't be any better as an endurance athlete. So when you think about it, going back old school, kind of diving deep into your story, your treasure chest of stories that you've gone through and pulling out information that helps you determine more about who you are and what you're doing and what you've done in the past, which can define what you're capable of now and what you can do in the future is actually a strategic advantage. All right. So when we think about what a solution might look like, this gets me back to Project 28, which is coming up in June 2nd. We're going to release that. It'll be free. Just a chance to come out. I just want to see how many athletes want to get back to the basics of training without all the noise and keep it really simple. More coming soon. I'm not going to tell you any more about what it is, but do pay attention to Endurance Nation, both here on Facebook and Instagram, but also at endurancestation.us. I will drop all of them there. And if you want to head over to endurancestation.us, you can choose to download any one of the free resources we have there. It'll sign you up for a newsletter, and you'll get a first opportunity to log in and get access to Project 28 when we start. The thing that I want to talk about here at the finish is, well, it's just another thing, right? He's got to do another thing. Well, really, no. The goal here is actually to challenge you a little bit with some constraints and make you realize that your ability to manage load, to manage your workouts, to see progress across weeks is actually firmly within your control. Doesn't require an abacus, a calculus, or some kind of star-powered computer. It just requires you to be paying attention, which is hard because everything we have around us is designed to distract us. It requires you taking a little bit of notes, right, as you learn from week to week. And it's going to require you to kind of get used to turning the knob a little bit, either direction, kind of fine tune. For those of you old like me, when you grew up with the radio and you were just trying to find your favorite station, and to the right was a little too much and the left was a little bit much, you can get it just right. No, long before Sirius XM and all the records that were just radio stations that are digitally enabled, we actually had to go through and find it. Had to put the antenna up and hold it in a certain way, or hold the radio over your head, or whatever it was, to get it just right. And get back to a little bit of that old school stuff and give you a chance to reconnect with the fundamental core elements that define you as an endurance athlete and will empower you to be your best. My friends, there is no app that's going to make you incredible, because if there was, everybody would have it and they'd all be paying for it, and therefore everything is equal. Your competitive advantage is one that lives deep inside you, one that's been honed over time, and that you too can get back, make friends with again, and learn to put the training data as a nice to have, not a need to have, and get back to doing the things around consistency, around frequency, about smart decision making that can set you up for a successful year. I'm not talking about winning massive races or setting world records. I'm just saying, how do we get fitter? How do we get faster? How do we eliminate the things we don't need, keep what we do, and have a good time while we're doing it? That, my friends, is Project 28. There's more information coming out soon. But I hope you enjoyed this episode and my little story about Strava and the evolution. Do yourself a favor. Go to the waybackmachine.org. Type in Strava. Go back 10 years. Go take a look at it. Go take a look at those screenshots. You will not believe what we thought was advanced technology then relative to where we are now. And you'll also note the uncanny parallels that our technology as athletes is getting more and more gamified, turning more and more into social media apps. The smartest people who are alive today in our generation are working at terminals behind the scenes with AI technology to try and get you to click things and stay as long as possible on their apps. They can monetize your data and sell you stuff. You don't need it, my friends. Let's go back. We're taking it back old school. We're going to turn back that dial. Speaking of knobs, we're going to twist that one back a little bit, go retro, and have some fun. This has been Coach Patrick here from Endurance Nation. Take care. I'll see you in our next episode.